In today's ACE ebook video, we're going to look at effective discussion techniques. There are three general topics we'll cover. First, visual thinking strategy, which helps students describe what they see or know and ask them to build explanations. Second, effective discussion starter prompts, which help students engage in fruitful discussion in a variety of disciplines. And third, the fishbowl discussion strategy, which is a dynamic classroom activity that allows students to express their own ideas and respond to the ideas of others. Young ACE teachers may find themselves pulling teeth when it comes to getting students to participate in group discussion. Students may find themselves doing all the talking or find that discussions simply devolve to arguing or simple restatements of someone else's opinion. This isn't discussion, it's boredom. This video will help bring lively discussion to your classroom in ways that expand students' prior knowledge, promote evidential reasoning, and encourage multiple perspectives and politeness in general. We'll begin by looking at a sample lesson plan to develop effective discussion techniques. This is a 2-day lesson that can be used in virtually any subject: social studies, religion, reading, or any context for whole group discussion at any grade level. With this lesson, students will be able to demonstrate effective discussion techniques to express ideas and build on the ideas of others. For the assessment, the student will use the fishbowl method to discuss and record comments and questions from self and peers. On day 1 of this lesson, we use what's called a visual thinking strategy. This is a thinking routine that asks students to describe something, such as an object or concept, and then support their interpretation with evidence. Because the basic questions in this routine are flexible, it is useful when looking at objects such as works of art or historical artifacts, but it can also be used to explore a poem, make scientific observations and hypotheses, or investigate more conceptual ideas. In my 5th grade classroom, I used this mural by Diego Rivera to introduce a social studies unit on the Aztecs. Simply project the picture on the board and have students journal about these 2 questions. First, what's going on in this picture? And second, what evidence makes you say that? Give students 5 minutes to record their thoughts. Before letting them share, it's important to introduce them to effective discussion starter prompts. This way, students are responding to each other rather than you, the teacher, which leads to richer, deeper, independent conversation. You can use an anchor chart to introduce these discussion starter prompts. There are 3 main categories: agree, disagree, and clarification. This is really all you need for a good discussion, but these tools must be taught. Students can say things like, "I agree with Mary because blank, and I would like to add blank." Or they may disagree with Mary, but instead of saying, "You're wrong, Mary," they can respectfully say, "You mentioned that, Mary, but another view would be this." Sometimes students may not understand Mary, and they'll need clarification. Too often, students think that they can only ask questions to the teacher, but I always tell students that they'll learn more from each other than they do from me. Students can ask, "Mary, I still have a question about blank," or "Mary, could you clarify blank?" This keeps the discussion going. After introducing these starter prompts, let the students practice discussing the artwork or artifact you used for the visual thinking strategy. You'll begin to see just how much more fruitful the discussion will actually be. Don't hesitate to gently correct or ask some clarifying questions yourself. Make sure that new comments are evidence-based, meaning their comments are derived from what they actually perceive from their observations. You can close day 1 of the lesson by having students rewrite their initial journal entry using the new perspectives they gained from their peers. You'll discover that they include more evidence and have a more developed understanding of the material. We'll now move on to day 2 of the lesson, which involves a more complex but exciting activity called a fishbowl discussion. Don't get frustrated if this discussion seems somewhat halted and messy at first. as it may take a few tries for the students to get used to. After that, it'll be seamless and students will continue to request that you do this activity again and again. The fishbowl discussion is best done after the class does a reading, usually from the previous night that you want discussed. Again, this strategy can be done in any subject and for probably upper elementary and above. I start my fishbowls by having students first recall the reading to be discussed by writing 2 thick questions related to the reading. As a reminder, thick questions are deeper questions that aren't necessarily found in the text. They're more subjective and elicit multiple perspectives. I collect the questions and use them to fuel discussion. So here's how the fishbowl actually works. You should start by arranging the desks in a circle. Divide the class in half and have one group of students standing inside the circle of desks. They are the ones who will be discussing the reading using those wonderful discussion starter prompts we talked about and answering those thick questions you collected. The students on the outside will be seated in the desks and actively listening to the discussion and taking notes. Each student will receive a fishbowl participation guide and 3 comment cards. When a student in the inner circle makes a comment or asks a question, he or she will place their comment card in the fishbowl or bucket in the middle. Those on the outside are recording any significant comments or questions they hear from their peers. Students can move from the outside to the inside circle by tapping in. This is simply done by tapping a student from the inner circle on the shoulder, and then they will go to the outer circle. After some practice, this will happen seamlessly. The goal is for each student to make 3 significant comments or questions during discussion. With my class of 20, it takes about 20 to 25 minutes for this to happen. On the left, here's what the participation guide looks like. Students can record notes from their peers and also their own comments and questions in case they don't have time to say everything they want to. At the bottom, students can evaluate their participation and score themselves, which is helpful in determining their participation grade. You can use cards like these on the right or make your own for comment cards to drop into the fishbowl. During discussion, it's important that you as the teacher monitor movement, especially the first time. You will also have to anticipate arguments and opinions and stir the pot once in a while, interjecting to facilitate the direction of discussion. You may want to keep a tally of who has shared and who hasn't to make sure that everyone gets a chance to participate. After the discussion is over, give the students a few minutes to finish completing their participation guides. These will serve as a formal assessment of the discussion. I hope this topic was helpful and will lead to more effective and engaging discussion in your classroom. Remember that the more these strategies are practiced, the more readily students will adopt them into their everyday language, making every class period an opportunity for greater depth and insight in conversation.